This story's every twist will leave you shocked, so make sure to watch the video till the end. And don't forget to comment with the name of your city. Also, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss any more thrilling stories. It was a dark, stormy night when Alex first saw the faces in the storm. The wind howled, the rain lashed against the windows, and the air felt thick with an unsettling presence. Alone in their isolated countryside home, Alex peered out the window, only to see something that chilled them to their core. Faces in the swirling storm. They weren't just shapes or shadows, they were human, their expressions frozen in desperation, their eyes pleading for something. But what could they want? As the storm raged on, the faces grew clearer, closer, and more distorted. Alex's heart pounded in their chest, and a haunting thought gripped their mind. What if the storm was bringing something worse than the weather itself? The whispers started soon after. Soft at first, but then louder, as if they were coming from inside the house. Alex wasn't alone anymore. Something in the storm was watching, waiting, and it wanted in. The story begins on a stormy night in a remote countryside home where the protagonist, Alex, is alone. They had chosen to stay behind when their family left for the weekend, eager for some time to themselves. But as the storm intensified, something felt wrong. The howling wind rattled the windows, and the rain lashed against the walls in a way that seemed almost unnatural. As the night grew darker, Alex settled in for what they hoped would be a quiet evening, watching TV and reading a book by the fireplace. But the peaceful silence was shattered when the power flickered and went out, plunging the house into complete darkness. The only light now came from the flashes of lightning outside. When Alex glanced out the window, they noticed something strange. The storm was swirling violently, but amidst the chaos of the rain and wind, they could make out what seemed like faces forming in the swirling clouds. At first, Alex thought it was a trick of the light, but as they focused, the faces became clearer. They weren't just random shapes, they were distinctly human. Eyes wide, mouths frozen in silent screams, and expressions twisted in terror. Alex tried to shake it off, assuming it was just the stress of being alone in a storm, but the faces kept appearing, moving closer with each flash of lightning. A feeling of dread began to settle over them, and they couldn't tear their eyes away from the window. It wasn't just a hallucination. Something was out there, something that was watching, waiting. Suddenly, Alex heard a soft scratching noise coming from the attic. Their heart raced. The house was old, and it could have been the wind, but the noise felt too deliberate. Something was in the attic, something that shouldn't be there. As Alex crept toward the attic door, the storm outside intensified even more, and the faces in the storm began to grow clearer. They were looking directly at them. Alex's fear begins to spiral as they realize the faces are not just random formations. They are looking at them, waiting for something, and whatever it is, it's coming closer. This is the moment when Alex realizes that the storm is not just a storm. Something supernatural is at play, and their isolation is the perfect setting for the horrors that are unfolding. As the storm continues to rage outside, Alex tries to dismiss their growing fear. They convince themselves it's just the power of imagination, fueled by isolation and the storm. But as they approach the attic, the door creaks open on its own, revealing nothing but darkness. An unsettling chill fills the air as Alex steps into the attic, flashlight trembling in their hand. The attic is eerily silent, except for the creaking of the wooden floorboards beneath their feet. The beam of light from the flashlight flickers across dusty furniture, old trunks, and cobwebs. Everything seems ordinary, except for a small, hand-carved wooden box sitting atop an old chest. The box is unusual, delicate and beautifully crafted, yet somehow out of place among the forgotten relics of the attic. As Alex reaches for the box, they feel a sharp pain in their chest, as if something is pulling at their very soul. A sudden, overwhelming compulsion urges them to open it. Inside the box, Alex finds a collection of old, faded photographs. Each photo depicts a different person standing in front of the same countryside house. Strangely, in every photo, the people have their faces obscured by what looks like a fog or shadow. But as Alex examines them closely, they notice something chilling. In the background, the storm clouds in the sky look almost alive. The faces from the storm seem to be in the clouds, watching the people in the photographs. As Alex turns over each photo, they find a note tucked underneath. It reads, "They're always watching, waiting. You can never leave once they find you." A sense of dread sweeps over Alex as they realize the faces in the storm are not a new phenomenon. They've been appearing for decades, tormenting those who dare stay in the house. The storm has a pattern, and the people in the photographs are all gone, lost to whatever forces control the storm. Panic sets in as Alex begins to piece together the horrifying truth. These faces aren't just clouds, they're spirits, trapped in the storm, seeking a new victim with every passing night. Suddenly, the attic door slams shut behind them, trapping Alex inside. The storm outside intensifies, and the faces in the sky seem to draw closer. Desperate, Alex tries to break open the attic window, but it won't budge. As they struggle, they feel the air grow colder, and the faint whisper of voices begins to fill the attic. The faces in the storm are no longer just outside, they are in the house. A loud thud comes from the floor below, followed by a scraping sound, as if something is moving through the house. Alex's heart races. They aren't alone anymore. The figures from the storm have entered the house, and they're coming for them. In a panic, Alex rushes to the staircase, but as they descend, they're confronted with a horrifying sight. At the bottom of the stairs stands a figure, obscured by shadow, with eyes glowing eerily in the dim light. The air grows heavier, the storm roaring louder as the figure steps forward, its face now fully visible. It's the same face Alex saw in the storm, one of the faces from the photographs. But now, the face is no longer a distant apparition. It's standing before Alex, alive, hungry, and eager for the next victim. The storm is not just an external force. It has a presence, a will of its own, and it's closing in on Alex, demanding to be fed. Alex realizes the horrifying truth. Once the faces in the storm find you, there is no escaping them. They're here, inside the house, and they're waiting to claim their next victim. Now trapped in their own home, with no escape from the storm or the sinister entities it harbors, Alex must find a way to break the cycle before they too become another lost soul in the storm. Alex's heart pounds in their chest as the shadowed figure steps forward, its eyes glowing like fiery embers. The face, distorted, twisted, and filled with malevolent intent, glares at Alex, sending chills down their spine. But as they try to flee, the air thickens, suffocating them with an overwhelming dread. The storm outside rages even harder, the wind howling like a chorus of wailing souls. But now, inside the house, there is only silence, unnerving, suffocating silence. Alex backs up against the wall, eyes darting around, looking for an escape. The figure doesn't move. It simply stands there, staring, its face unreadable, but somehow more alive, more hungry. Then suddenly, the lights flicker and go out, plunging Alex into complete darkness. Panic sets in, and they stumble through the house, desperate to find a way out. The floor creaks underfoot as they dash for the front door, but as they reach it, it won't open. No matter how hard they pull, the door remains sealed shut, as if the house itself is preventing them from leaving. Suddenly, the sound of slow, dragging footsteps fills the air. The figure is no longer alone. Alex's breath quickens as shadows materialize around them. Other figures, other faces from the storm, all coming closer. The faces from the photos, now in full, horrific form, are emerging from the very walls. They step out of the storm, disembodied, but somehow solid, pulling themselves from the storm clouds and the nightmarish haze that surrounds the house. The realization hits Alex like a ton of bricks. The house is alive. The storm has brought these faces into the world, and now they are hunting. The storm doesn't just trap its victims, it feeds on them, drawing them into the world of the living and the dead. Each soul it claims becomes a part of the storm, forever bound to its wrath. Alex staggers backward, nearly falling over as the figures surround them. The storm is no longer just outside the house. It is inside, consuming every inch of space. The very walls seem to shudder with each gust of wind, as if the house itself is alive, working with the storm to trap Alex in its unyielding grasp. The faces move closer, each of them whispering in low, haunting voices. The words are unintelligible at first, but then one phrase emerges from the cacophony. "You will join us." In a state of terror and disbelief, Alex spins around and runs for the attic again, the only place they haven't yet explored fully. They reach the door, but as they touch the handle, something inside the room shifts. A cold, clammy hand grabs Alex's wrist from behind, sending a jolt of icy fear through their body. Turning in shock, Alex faces the twisted faces of the storm that have now invaded the attic. The figures that were once distant, unearthly beings are now up close, their expressions contorted with agony and rage. They no longer look like humans. Their features are grotesque, their faces pale and stretched, eyes wide with an unnatural intensity. In the dim light, Alex sees a face among the crowd, one that's familiar. It's the face from the photograph that started it all. It's the face of the person who was the previous victim of the storm. Alex's blood runs cold as they realize the horrifying truth. The storm is a cycle. It claims one soul every year, and once you are claimed, your face is trapped in the storm forever, destined to repeat the cycle with the next victim. It's not just the storm that's haunting the house, it's the faces of everyone who has ever been consumed. "You will never leave. You belong to us now," the voice says, and the room fills with a deafening sound of voices and whispers. Alex's grip on sanity begins to slip as the storm's power invades their mind, erasing their sense of self. The figures close in, and Alex begins to understand that the house is not just a building, it's a prison, a place that keeps the faces trapped, forever waiting for the next soul to claim. Desperate, Alex tries to fight back. They grab a nearby candle and use it as a weapon, thrusting it toward the figures. The flames flicker and crackle, but it does nothing. The faces close in, their eyes hungry, their mouths twisted into smiles. Suddenly, the storm outside intensifies, crashing against the windows with a force so powerful that the glass shatters, filling the room with icy shards. The figures begin to disintegrate into the storm's fury, becoming one with the wind and the rain. But as the storm roars louder, one figure remains. It is the face from the photographs, the one Alex has seen so many times. The figure steps forward, eyes now fixed on Alex. "It's time," the figure whispers, and then, as if consumed by the very storm itself, the figure vanishes, leaving behind only the howl of the wind. The storm continues to rage, but Alex is no longer alone. They have joined the storm. They are now one of the faces, trapped forever in the never-ending cycle of the storm, waiting for the next unsuspecting soul to enter the house. In the final moments, Alex's voice echoes in the wind, joining the others, now a part of the storm's haunting chorus. "You will never leave. You belong to us now." The storm continues its eternal cycle, forever waiting for the next victim. As Alex's struggle to escape grows more desperate, the storm outside intensifies. The howling wind becomes deafening, rattling the walls, as though the very house itself is trying to shake them loose. But the more Alex struggles, the more the atmosphere seems to grow thick with dread. The faces that once surrounded them, faded, ghostly, and distant, are now looming closer, their grotesque forms more solid than ever, whispering dark promises. The dark figure, the one whose face Alex had seen first, emerges from the shadows, its features clearer now. The eyes, hollow and devoid of any humanity, burn with a malicious hunger. It's as if the very air around it grows colder, pressing in on Alex, constricting their breath. Each step it takes toward them is slow, deliberate, as though the creature is savoring the torment it inflicts. Alex's mind races, trying to make sense of the nightmare that has swallowed them whole. The storm, the faces, the whispers. Nothing is adding up, but it doesn't matter. There's no escape, no sanctuary. The storm's power has claimed them, and the house, now alive with malevolent energy, refuses to let them go. The air shifts once again, and in the corner of the room, a mirror begins to form from the swirling darkness. At first, it's a crack in the wall. Then it expands, reflecting a room that doesn't exist, an eerie, distorted version of the space Alex is trapped in. The reflection isn't just a reflection, it's a portal to another dimension, another plane where the storm rages eternally, and the faces wander without purpose. Alex looks into the mirror, and for a split second, they see something that wasn't there before. Their own face, but twisted, tortured, marked by the storm's unrelenting power. They try to look away, but their eyes are drawn back to the reflection. In that moment, the realization hits them hard. The storm is not just outside, it is inside them. It has marked them, made them a part of it, and it's using them to lure others in. A sudden pull on Alex's chest forces them to stumble backward as the storm surges, the wind now filling the room with a deafening roar. The walls groan, the air thickens, and the figures that had once been silent now come alive with an insatiable hunger. They move closer, too close. They're not just faces anymore. They're nightmares, alive and searching. The faces speak now, more clearly than before. Join us, forever. Their voices are no longer faint whispers, but a thunderous cacophony, each voice distinct, yet blending into a single horrific sound. The storm is inside Alex's head, wrapping around their thoughts, distorting their sanity, making them believe they're becoming one of them. Alex screams, but their voice is swallowed by the storm. The figures begin to melt, their forms changing, disintegrating into a black mist that swarms around Alex. It presses in, choking them, suffocating their mind. The air is suffused with their distorted faces, eyes wide open, locked in eternal torment. Suddenly, Alex's feet leave the ground. The storm pulls them up, lifting them toward the mirror. The reflection shows them fighting, clawing to break free, but their movements become slower, heavier, as if the storm is taking control. Each effort to break free only strengthens the storm's grip. In the mirror, Alex's face contorts into a grotesque mask. Their mouth opens, but the scream that escapes is not their own. It's a distorted echo of the countless souls who have been consumed by the storm before them. The faces surrounding Alex begin to merge with theirs, consuming their identity, blending into one monstrous, horrific entity. With one final desperate scream, Alex is pulled into the mirror, their body vanishing into the storm's endless void. The last thing they see before everything goes dark is their own face staring back at them from the reflection, twisted, unrecognizable, a broken fragment of the storm's soul. But even in the void, they are not alone. The storm never stops. The faces in the mirror still whisper, still wait for the next soul to enter. In the storm, there is no escape, only endless, twisted faces, forever trapped in its grip, waiting for the next victim to join them. And as Alex is lost in the chaos, they understand the truth. The storm doesn't just steal lives, it steals identities, turning each soul it claims into yet another face in the never-ending storm. The storm rages on, its fury never abating, its howls growing louder as though the entire universe is caught in its grasp. Inside the house, now fully consumed by the relentless wind and darkness, there is no sense of time, no escape. The very walls of the house seem to pulse with the storm's malevolent energy, alive with the breath of forgotten souls and unspeakable horrors. Alex's consciousness flickers in and out, trapped in a limbo of terror. The faces in the mirror, the ones that had once whispered, now scream in unison, their voices colliding in a maddening crescendo that echoes inside their skull. Each face is a fragment of someone who was once alive, now lost in the storm's wake, their spirits twisted and forever bound to the storm's cursed existence. As Alex drifts through this nightmare, they begin to feel the weight of the storm pressing on them from every angle. The oppressive atmosphere weighs on their mind, their thoughts disintegrating with each passing second. The faces are not just on the walls or in the mirrors anymore. They are everywhere. They are inside Alex's head, inside their very soul, whispering names that Alex can no longer recognize, pushing them toward madness. A chilling realization creeps through Alex's fading thoughts. They are no longer a spectator in this storm. They are becoming part of it. The storm is not a force outside them, it is inside them, changing them, consuming them. The storm, it seems, has no beginning and no end. It's a loop, a never-ending cycle of horror that twists time and space, trapping those who enter in its grasp. The mirror that had once held Alex's reflection is now shattered, broken into pieces, each shard a window into another dimension, a darker, more twisted version of the house they had once known. Every fragment of the mirror shows a different scene, a different version of Alex. In one, Alex is still in the house, standing perfectly still, their eyes wide with fear. In another, they are running, trying to escape, only to be pulled back into the storm. In a third, they are no longer human at all, just a face, lost in the endless swirl of the storm, forever part of the chaos. Alex's body is no longer their own. The storm has claimed it, twisting their form into a grotesque, shifting silhouette that mirrors the faces around them. They are becoming one of them, the storm's victims, trapped in a cycle of endless torment. But even as they fade, a glimmer of Alex's former self remains, fighting to hold on to their identity, trying to remember who they were before the storm consumed them. The faces in the storm begin to chant, their voices melding together in a single word, "Join us." The more they chant, the stronger the pull becomes. The storm's winds intensify, pulling at Alex's very essence, threatening to rip them apart. In the center of the room, a figure begins to form, an outline at first, then more defined, until it is unmistakable. It is the figure Alex had seen earlier, the one whose face had been the first to haunt them. This time, the figure steps forward, reaching out with elongated skeletal hands, pulling Alex closer. Its face is a twisted mask of despair, eyes hollow, but the expression is one of sorrow. It whispers, "You are one of us now." The figure touches Alex's face, and in that moment, everything changes. The storm seems to pause, as if holding its breath. The world around Alex distorts. The walls closing in. Time stops. For a fleeting instant, Alex feels free. They are no longer in the storm, no longer trapped in the house. They are weightless, floating in an endless void, surrounded by nothing but blackness. They feel an overwhelming peace, a sense of release. But then, the peace is shattered. The faces reappear, more terrifying than before, their mouths gaping open in silent screams. They begin to chant once more, their voices louder and more frantic. And as they chant, Alex is pulled back into the storm. The figure watches silently as Alex is swallowed by the storm once again. The room falls silent, the wind dies down, but the storm does not relent. The faces are still there, waiting, and they will wait forever. As the screen fades to black, the chilling truth settles in. There is no escaping the storm. The storm doesn't just claim bodies, it claims souls, identities, and memories. Those who are taken are not lost. They become a part of the storm itself, faces that wander the endless void, forever trapped in the chaos. And for those who dare to listen, the storm's whispers never end. They call to you, they call to everyone. Join us.